The cold air burned against Ethan Cole's face as he opened his eyes. His ship had crashed somewhere unknown. The metal was twisted, the lights were dead, and all he could hear was the soft hum of alien wind. He tried to move, but pain shot through his body. His arm was broken, his breathing shallow. Smoke rose from the wreckage, glowing blue sparks dancing in the air. He called for help, but there was no answer. Only silence stretching across the strange valley. Then from the shadows figures appeared, tall, thin, and glowing with a faint silver light. Their eyes shimmered like glass. Ethan froze. Unsure if they were real or his mind playing tricks, they moved slowly, gracefully, as if floating rather than walking. One of them, taller than the rest, came closer, her voice soft and melodic. "You are not safe here, human," she said. Before he could respond, his vision went dark, and everything faded away. When Ethan woke again, he was no longer in his ship. He was lying on a smooth crystal bed inside a round chamber filled with white mist. Strange symbols glowed on the walls, pulsing like heartbeats. Around him stood the same silver beings, their hands glowing as they worked on him. He realized they were healing him. His pain was fading. His wounds closing, he wanted to thank them, but his voice was weak. One of them placed a hand over his mouth and whispered, "Rest, you are safe now." But Ethan didn't feel safe. These creatures had captured him, taken him from his ship, and locked him in a glowing room. He sat up, his mind racing. "What do you want from me?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. The tall figure from before stepped forward, the one who had spoken to him. She had smooth silver skin that shimmered like moonlight, and deep violet eyes that seemed to look right into his soul. "My name is Zira," she said gently. "We saved your life," Ethan frowned. "Then why am I a prisoner?" Zira tilted her head, studying him. "You are not a prisoner, human, but you are not free either," she said. Her words confused him even more. He looked around the chamber, no doors, no windows, only the soft hum of alien energy. Every surface seemed alive, breathing, reacting to his movements. He could feel the vibration under his skin, like the room itself was watching him. Hours passed, maybe days, Ethan couldn't tell. The aliens brought him strange food that glowed faintly, and a liquid that healed his throat. Sometimes, Zira would sit beside him and ask questions about Earth, about oceans, music, laughter, and dreams. It felt strange to him. How could an alien be so curious about human emotions? When he spoke of Earth's blue sky, Zira closed her eyes and whispered, "We had skies once." Her tone carried sadness, deep and ancient. That moment made Ethan pause. He realized they weren't just cold beings of light. They had memories, maybe even pain. One night, while he pretended to sleep, Ethan overheard two aliens speaking in low voices. "He carries the code," one said. "If the prophecy is true, he can awaken the core." Ethan didn't understand, but he felt fear rise inside him. What code were they talking about? And why was it inside him? He stayed quiet, pretending to be unconscious as they continued whispering. "The leader will decide," the other replied. "He must be kept alive until she chooses." The next morning, Zira came to him again, her expression softer than before. "You are strong," she said. "Many would not have survived that crash." Ethan crossed his arms, still suspicious. "Tell me why you saved me." Zira hesitated, her silver fingers brushing against the wall, making it glow brighter. "Because," she said slowly, "your coming was not an accident." Ethan's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" She looked at him, her violet eyes glowing softly. "You were sent here." Her words hit him like a wave. Confusion, fear, disbelief. "I was on a mission." "Not a prophecy," he said sharply. Zira smiled faintly. "The universe does not care for your plans, human. It moves as it must." Before Ethan could argue, the entire room began to shake. A deep rumble echoed through the walls, alarms blaring in an alien tone. Zira turned to the others, shouting orders in a language he couldn't understand. Blue energy shields lit up around the chamber. "What's happening?" Ethan asked, gripping the edge of the bed. Zira turned toward him, her face serious now. "They found us," she said. "Who?" "The hunters," without warning. The ceiling cracked open, and beams of red light shot down from the sky. Explosions thundered outside as alien soldiers ran through the corridors. Zira grabbed Ethan's arm. "Come with me if you want to live." He hesitated, looking back at the chamber where he had been healed. "Now," she shouted, and pulled him through a wall that melted open like liquid glass. The two of them ran through the glowing corridors as the city above burned. Ethan's mind was racing. He didn't know if she was saving him again, or capturing him for something far worse, but deep inside, he knew one thing. Nothing about this rescue was simple, and whatever the aliens truly wanted from him was only just beginning. The moment Ethan stepped outside the collapsing chamber, his eyes widened in awe and confusion. The world beyond the walls shimmered like a dream, an endless city built from glass and light. Rising high into the sky, towers floated in the air, connected by glowing bridges that pulsed with energy. The air itself felt alive, humming with a soft blue rhythm that made his skin tingle. For a moment he forgot about the chaos behind them, and just stared at the beauty before him. Zyra kept moving, pulling his arm, her expression focused and calm. "Don't stop," she said, her voice low but urgent. "The hunters will not rest until they find you." Ethan stumbled after her, his legs weak but his mind spinning with questions. He wanted to ask why he was being hunted, or why this place looked like a city made of stars. But every time he tried to speak, the roar of explosions echoed above, drowning out his words. They reached a platform where a sleek silver craft waited. Hovering silently, Zyra motioned for him to climb in, and as soon as he did, the craft lifted smoothly into the air. Below them, Ethan saw thousands of aliens, tall, glowing beings, rushing through the streets. They were protecting something, forming shields, aiming strange weapons toward the skies. The red beams from the hunters' ships tore through the air like fire. "Who are they?" Ethan shouted over the noise. Zyra's voice was calm but heavy. "Outcasts of our kind, those who reject peace, they want what you carry." Ethan frowned, confused again. "What I carry? I don't even know what you're talking about." Zyra looked at him for a moment, her violet eyes glowing faintly. "You will soon," she said softly. The craft dove sharply, passing through a wall of light, and suddenly the noise stopped. Everything went silent. Ethan blinked in surprise. They were now inside a massive dome floating above the clouds. It was beautiful beyond words. Thousands of glowing crystals hung like stars in the air, forming a sky of their own. In the distance, he saw great towers shaped like spirals, floating gardens, and rivers of light flowing between them.
"This," Zyra said, spreading her hand, "is Luminaris."
"Our last city." Ethan felt small standing in front of such beauty. He could hardly believe a place like this existed. It was both alien and peaceful, but something about it felt sad, like a paradise built to hide a dying world. Zyra guided him down a silver bridge lined with creatures that looked like floating lanterns. Everywhere he looked, the aliens watched him, some with curiosity, some with fear. He realized that he was the only human here. Every eye was on him. They entered a great hall, its walls covered with strange symbols that glowed when Ethan walked past. He reached out to touch one of them, and it responded, a shifting, changing color. Zyra turned quickly, her tone firm. "Do not touch that." Ethan pulled his hand back, startled. "What is it?" "It is memory," she said, her voice softening. "The memory of your world." He blinked, confused. "My world? Earth?" Zyra nodded slowly. "Long ago, before your kind even walked upright, we watched your planet, we knew its light." Ethan stared at her, disbelief in his voice. "You're saying you knew about Earth before humans existed?" Zyra smiled faintly. "Yes, and we waited." They reached the center of the hall, where a massive crystal pulsed with gentle light. "This," Zyra said, "is the heart of Luminaris." Ethan could feel the power coming from it, like warmth. Alive and breathing, Zyra looked up at the glowing core, her voice distant. "Our sun is dying, our world is fading. Only this heart keeps us alive." Ethan finally understood a piece of it. "You saved me because you thought I could help you fix it." Zyra turned toward him, her expression unreadable. "Not fix it, awaken it." Ethan frowned. "Awaken." Zyra stepped closer, her tone serious. "There is a pattern in your DNA, human, a signal that matches the frequency of our dying sun. You are not random, you are the key." Her words felt impossible. Ethan took a step back, shaking his head. "That can't be true, I'm just a pilot." "I'm no one special." Zyra's eyes softened. "That's what all chosen ones say," she whispered. Ethan looked away, trying to process everything, aliens, prophecies, dying suns, and somehow him. The center of it all, why me? He asked, his voice quiet. "Because the universe chose balance," Zyra said. "You came to us when the last light began to fade. It cannot be coincidence. Before he could respond, the ground shook again. This time the tremor was softer. Not from an attack, but from something deeper. The heart of Luminaris flickered. Once, twice, then dimmed. Zira's eyes widened in fear. "It is happening sooner than we thought," she whispered. The glowing rivers outside began to fade. The floating towers trembled. Ethan could see the panic spreading among the aliens. Their calm broken, Zira turned to him sharply. "We don't have much time," Ethan stepped back. "Time for what?" She looked straight into his eyes, her voice steady but filled with urgency. "For you to remember who you truly are." The words hung in the air like thunder. Ethan stood frozen, unsure if she meant destiny, science, or something even stranger, but deep down, he felt it, a pulse within his chest, matching the flicker of the dying light above. Something was awakening inside him, something not human, and for the first time, he wondered if being rescued was really a blessing, or the beginning of something far darker. Ethan woke to a strange humming sound, deep and rhythmic, echoing through the walls of his room. He sat up slowly, his head heavy, his body still weak from the crash and the chaos before. Outside the glass window, the city of Luminaris glowed faintly, its towers now dimmer than before. It felt like the whole place was breathing slower, as if the city itself was growing tired. Zira had told him that their sun was dying, but now, for the first time, he could see it, a pale, fading sphere in the sky, losing its light a little more each hour. The door to his room opened silently, and a smaller alien entered, younger, with softer features and green light in his eyes. "My name is Cairo," he said gently, bowing slightly. "Zira asked me to bring you to the chamber." Ethan frowned. "What chamber?" "The place of truth," Cairo answered, his voice calm but hiding something behind it. Ethan followed him through the glowing halls, their steps echoing softly. He could feel eyes on him from every direction, aliens watching quietly, whispering as he passed. They seemed curious but also afraid. At the end of the corridor stood a giant circular door made of living metal. It opened with a low hiss, revealing a vast room filled with blue light. Machines floated in the air, shifting shapes as energy flowed between them. In the center was a transparent sphere. Pulsing slowly like a heart, Zira stood beside it, her silver skin reflecting the light, her face calm but serious. "Welcome, Ethan," she said softly. "This is where you will learn why you are here." Ethan walked closer, his voice uncertain. "You said I carry something, a code." "A signal, what does that mean?" Zira nodded toward the sphere. "This chamber records the truth of creation. It will show you what we have hidden." With a motion of her hand, the light around them changed suddenly. The air shimmered, forming images, stars, galaxies, and ancient wars of fire and light. Ethan's eyes widened as he saw Earth appear, his home, small and bright, floating in the dark. Zira's voice echoed softly. "Long ago, before your kind built machines, our explorers reached your world. We left our mark in your DNA, a sleeping key." Ethan shook his head in disbelief. "That's impossible." Zira looked at him sadly. "Impossible yet true." The vision shifted again, showing alien scientists, her people, watching over sleeping humans in transparent pods. Ethan felt his stomach twist. "What is this?" he whispered. Zira hesitated, her eyes flickering. "Experiments," she said quietly. "Attempts to awaken the code." Ethan stepped back, his voice sharper now. "You used humans, didn't you? You captured them." Zira looked down. "We saved them from death," she said softly. "But yes, we tested, we failed. Again and again." Her tone was calm, but guilt shimmered in her eyes. Ethan stared at her, anger rising inside him. "You call that saving?" Cairo stepped forward quickly, his hands glowing faintly. "You must understand, human. Our world was dying, we had no time. No choice." Ethan turned on him, his voice cold. "There's always a choice." Zira raised a hand, stopping Cairo, her gaze fixed on Ethan. "We never wanted this," she said, "but without the key, our sun will consume us all." She walked closer to him, her voice lowering to a whisper. "And you, Ethan, you are the only one who can stop it." Ethan took another step back, his heart pounding. "Stop it how?" Zira touched the glowing sphere, and suddenly, beams of light wrapped around him. He gasped as the light passed through his body, filling him with warmth and pain at once. The sphere projected images again, his own body, his cells glowing with strange blue lines. Zira spoke softly. Your DNA carries the resonance pattern that connects to the heart of our sun. You can awaken it, you can give it life again. Ethan struggled to breathe. And what happens to me if I do this? Zira hesitated, her silence was the answer. Ethan's voice broke the quiet. It kills me. Doesn't it? Cairo lowered his head, his voice almost a whisper. Yes, the energy will consume you. Ethan laughed bitterly. So that's the real reason you saved me. Not because you cared, but because you need me to die for you. Zira's expression didn't change, but her voice softened with something like sorrow. You think in terms of life and death, human, but we see beyond it. Your sacrifice could save billions, Ethan glared at her. That's not your choice to make. The air grew heavy. The light pulsed faster. For a moment, no one spoke. The only sound was the hum of the machines. Then Zira whispered, "There is still time. I will not force you, but the truth cannot be undone." Ethan stood there, his thoughts racing, his chest burning with anger and confusion. He looked at the glowing sphere, beautiful. Alive and deadly, Zira's words echoed in his mind. You are the key. He wanted to run, to escape, but something deep inside him pulsed again. The same rhythm as before. He could feel it. The strange energy inside him responding to the chamber. The light around him flickered. Matching his heartbeat, Zira watched quietly, her voice almost trembling. It has already begun. Ethan backed away, shaking his head. No, I didn't agree to anything, but the light followed him. Threads of blue energy wrapping around his arms, his chest, his mind. He could feel whispers inside his head, voices he didn't recognize. The chamber reacted to him, the sphere glowing brighter and brighter. Zira turned to Cairo. Shut it down, she ordered. But it was too late. The entire room exploded with light. Ethan screamed as his body lifted into the air, the energy flowing through him like fire. Images flashed before his eyes, stars dying, worlds burning, and a heartbeat that wasn't his own. Then as suddenly as it began, the light vanished. Ethan fell to the ground. Gasping for breath, Zira rushed to his side, her voice trembling. You are stronger than we imagined. Ethan looked up at her, his eyes now faintly glowing blue, and whispered, What did you do to me? The city of Luminaris was quiet that night, too quiet. Ethan couldn't sleep. His body still ached from what had happened in the experiment chamber. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw flashes of blue light and heard whispers echoing in his mind. He didn't understand them, but they sounded ancient, calling his name in a language he could almost feel. Zira had left him in a private room after the test, saying he needed rest. But rest was impossible when you had energy pulsing through your veins like liquid fire. He looked at his reflection in the glass wall. His eyes glowed faintly blue, the same shade as the alien energy. He didn't look human anymore, at least not completely. Something inside him had changed, something that scared him more than anything else. Outside the window, the great towers shimmered softly, and for a moment the city looked peaceful. But he could sense it, beneath that calm beauty. Something was wrong, something the aliens weren't telling him. When the halls grew silent, Ethan made his move. He pressed his hand against the door, and to his surprise, it opened by itself, reacting to his touch. The blue lights along the walls flickered as he walked, as if the city recognized him now. He moved quietly through the glowing corridors, trying not to make a sound. He didn't know where he was going, only that he needed answers. Zira had told him part of the truth, but he could feel there was more, something darker, hidden beneath the beauty of Luminaris. After walking for several minutes, he reached a section of the city that looked abandoned. The lights were dim here and the air was colder. He passed strange doors sealed with alien symbols, each one humming faintly. Finally, he found a narrow passage that led downward, carved into the crystal floor. Hidden from sight, curiosity pulled him deeper, and he followed the tunnel until he reached a large metal door. A single word glowed on its surface, written in alien script, but somehow he understood it. It said, "The Fallen." Ethan's heart pounded as he touched the door. Instantly, the symbols flared to life, and the door slid open with a low hiss. Inside was darkness, thick and heavy. He stepped in slowly, his footsteps echoing. Then, faint light filled the room. Glowing pods lined the walls. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Ethan froze. His breath caught in his throat. Inside each pod was a human, their faces peaceful, their bodies motionless. Some looked old, some young, all connected to glowing tubes of energy that ran into the floor. He walked closer, pressing his hand against one of the pods. The human inside looked just like him, alive but trapped in an endless sleep. "What is this?" he whispered, his voice trembling. A quiet voice answered behind him. "You weren't supposed to find this." Ethan spun around. And there stood Zira, her eyes glowing faintly. Sadness written across her face. He stepped back, anger rising inside him. "You lied to me," Zira sighed softly. "I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you everything." Ethan pointed at the pods. "You said you saved people. You said they died trying to help your world. But this is something else." Zira walked closer, her tone calm but heavy. "These humans were found just like you. Their ships crashed long ago. They carried the same code, the same signal." Ethan's eyes widened. "You mean they were all experiments?" Zira nodded slowly. "They volunteered, at least that's what we told them." Her voice broke slightly. "We failed them, every single one." Ethan clenched his fists. "You call this saving? You turned them into lab rats." Zira looked away, shame flickering across her face. "You don't understand what it means to lose everything. Human," she said softly. "Our sun is dying, our people fading. We are desperate." Ethan took a deep breath, his voice low and cold. Desperation doesn't make monsters innocent. He walked toward another pod and saw a small mark on the human's chest. The same blue glow that now burned faintly in his own skin. It hit him all at once. He was becoming one of them. He turned sharply toward Zira. "What did you do to me?" Zira's voice trembled. "I tried to save you. But the connection has already begun. You can't stop it now." Ethan shook his head, panic building. "No, you're not using me like them." "I won't let it happen." Zira stepped forward, her voice pleading. "Listen to me, Ethan. I never wanted this. I tried to change it. But my people, they won't stop until the heart of Luminaris is reborn." Her eyes glowed brighter, tears of silver forming at their edges. "If you run, they'll hunt you, and if they catch you, they'll finish the process." Ethan took another step back, his voice shaking but firm. "Then let them come." He turned toward the door, ready to escape, but it sealed shut with a flash of light. Zira raised her hand slowly. "You can't leave." "Not yet." Ethan glared at her, his voice rising. "You think you can keep me prisoner again?" Zira's face hardened. "No, but I can keep you alive." Before he could reply, alarms began to echo through the chamber. Red light flashing across the pods. Zira looked around in panic. "They know you're here." Ethan frowned. "Who?" Zira's expression darkened. "The council, they've seen what you found. And now they'll erase it." The ground shook as heavy footsteps echoed down the corridor outside. Ethan's pulse raced. He could hear metallic voices shouting commands in the alien language. Zira grabbed his arm, her voice urgent. "If you trust me even a little, follow me now." Ethan hesitated, torn between anger and fear. He looked once more at the sleeping humans, their faces calm and still. He didn't know if they were dead or dreaming. Then he looked at Zira, her eyes desperate but honest. Finally he nodded. "Fine, but this time, you tell me everything." Zira's voice softened. "You have my word." The wall behind her split open, revealing a narrow tunnel filled with pale blue mist. Zira led the way and Ethan followed, leaving the chamber of the fallen behind. As the door sealed once more, the lights in the pods flickered weakly. One of the sleeping humans opened their eyes for just a moment, glowing faint blue, just like Ethan's. And somewhere deep inside him he felt that same pulse again. The connection was growing stronger, and he didn't know if it belonged to him, or to something far beyond his control. The tunnel stretched endlessly beneath the shining city, glowing faintly with veins of blue light that pulsed like a heartbeat. Ethan followed Zira through the mist, the air heavy with energy, each breath filled with static that made his skin prickle. Neither of them spoke at first, the silence between them thick with unspoken truths. Finally, Ethan broke it, his voice low but sharp. "You promised answers, so start talking." Zira didn't turn, but her tone was calm, almost tired. "You already know more than you should." Ethan frowned. "Then tell me what I don't know." They reached a narrow platform that overlooked a massive chamber far below. From there, Ethan could see glowing rivers of energy flowing into a single enormous crystal. Suspended in the air like a heart made of light, it pulsed slowly, each beat sending waves of power through the city. "That," Zira said softly, "is the core of Luminaris." Ethan stared at it, awe and fear mixing inside him. "And you want me to save it?" Zira nodded. Without it, our sun dies, and our people fade into the void. Ethan looked down again. And if I save it, I die? Zyra didn't answer immediately. She looked out at the glowing chamber as if searching for the right words. Every living being is part of the same current, she said finally. When one fades, another rises. You are not ending, Ethan. You are transforming, Ethan laughed bitterly. That's easy for you to say when it's not your life on the line. Zyra turned toward him then, her violet eyes glowing softly. Do you think I don't understand loss? Her voice shook, not with anger, but with pain. I have seen my people vanish one by one. Entire cities turned to dust. I carry their voices in my dreams every night. Ethan looked at her, and for the first time he saw not just a leader, but someone burdened by centuries of sorrow. Still, the anger inside him refused to fade. You could have told me the truth from the start. Zyra's expression softened. If I had, would you have stayed? He hesitated, knowing the answer was no. Silence filled the tunnel again, the hum of energy surrounding them like quiet thunder. Ethan's mind raced. He didn't want to die, but he couldn't ignore the truth. The core was failing, and if it died, so would everything here. They moved deeper into the passage until it opened into a circular chamber lined with ancient carvings. Symbols glowed faintly on the walls, telling stories of battles, stars, and sacrifices. This is the Hall of Origin, Zyra said quietly. The first of our kind built this place when they arrived from beyond the stars. Ethan traced one of the carvings with his hand. It showed a human-like figure surrounded by light. Reaching toward the sun, he turned to her. That's me, isn't it? You've known about this for centuries. Zyra nodded slowly. The prophecy spoke of a human born under a dying star, carrying the pulse of creation within his blood. We searched for you for 1,000 years. Ethan felt his chest tighten. So all of this, my crash, my rescue, it was never an accident. Zyra stepped closer. Her voice soft. Fate rarely is, he backed away. Frustration boiling over. You talk about fate like it's some kind of mercy, but it's a trap. I didn't ask for any of this. Zyra lowered her head. Neither did I, she whispered. But we are both bound by it now. Ethan turned away, pacing the floor, his heart pounding with anger, fear, and something else. Pity, maybe. He could see how much Zyra carried, how desperately she wanted to save her people. But that didn't change the truth. She wanted him to die to do it. And yet, some part of him couldn't hate her. Not completely. After a long pause, Zyra walked to a small console built into the wall. She placed her hand on it and a hologram appeared. A map of their galaxy. At its center burned a flickering red star, weak and fading. This is our sun, she said quietly. When it dies, our energy will collapse. Every living thing will turn to dust. Ethan stared at it, the scale of it sinking in. Billions of lives, all depending on one impossible choice. If I refuse, so he asked slowly, what happens? Zyra looked at him with sad eyes. Then Luminaris dies, and so will Earth. Ethan froze. Earth? She nodded. The energy of our sun and yours is connected. If one fades, the other weakens. You may not see it now, but the collapse has already begun. The words hit him like a blade. He could almost see Earth in his mind. Oceans, forests, people, all of it at risk. His voice trembled. You're lying. Zyra met his eyes, her voice steady. Would you rather I was? Ethan turned away, his chest heavy, his thoughts a storm. If she was right, saving Luminaris might save Earth too. But it would cost him everything. Zyra stepped closer, her voice almost a whisper. Help us, Ethan, and I will promise you this. Your sacrifice will not be forgotten. Your world will live because of you. Her hand touched his arm, gentle, almost human. He looked at her, really looked, and saw the hope burning behind her sorrow. He felt torn apart inside, two voices fighting, one screaming to run, the other whispering to stay. Finally he whispered, If I do this, if I die for your world, promise me it won't be for nothing. Zyra's voice trembled. You have my word. A deep silence filled the hall, the air thick with emotion and energy. Ethan closed his eyes, trying to steady his breathing. He could feel the pulse again inside him, faster now, louder, matching the rhythm of the core. Zyra stepped back slowly, her expression unreadable. The ceremony begins at dawn, she said softly. Once it starts, there will be no turning back. Ethan nodded faintly, his voice almost a whisper. Then I guess I better get ready to die. As they left the hall, the carvings on the walls glowed brighter. The ancient figure, the one who looked like him, seemed to shimmer with new light. It was as if the city itself had heard his decision. But deep in his heart, Ethan knew this wasn't just about saving Luminaris anymore. It was about something far greater, something that would test what it truly meant to be human. The morning of the ceremony began with silence. The city of Luminaris, once alive with movement and light, now felt heavy and still. Ethan stood on a platform overlooking the glowing heart of the alien world. Below him stretched the core chamber, vast, ancient, and alive. Rivers of blue light flowed toward the center where the great crystal heart pulsed weakly, each beat slower than the last. Like a dying breath, Zira stood beside him, dressed in ceremonial armor made of silver and light. Her eyes glowed softly, her expression calm but full of sadness. "You can still walk away," she said quietly, her voice trembling just enough to show she didn't mean it. Ethan looked at her and shook his head. "I made my choice." He tried to sound strong, but inside fear clawed at his chest. He was about to give up everything, his life, his future, his humanity, for a world that wasn't his, and for a people who had deceived him. But he couldn't shake the image of Earth, bright and alive, hanging in the dark void. If Zyra's words were true, then his death could save both worlds. The air around them vibrated softly as alien priests entered the chamber. They moved in silence, their long robes glowing with shifting symbols. Each carried a crystal staff that pulsed with the same fading energy as the core. They formed a circle around Ethan, their faces unreadable one by one. They began to chant in a deep, echoing tone. The sound filled the chamber, rising like the hum of the universe itself. Zyra stepped forward and placed her hand on Ethan's chest. A small device, a silver disc, glowed beneath her palm. "This will connect your life force to the core," she said softly. "It will hurt, and once the process begins, it cannot be stopped." Ethan swallowed hard, his heart racing. "That's not very comforting." Zyra gave a small, sad smile. "I didn't come here to comfort you, human. I came to remember you." The priests raised their staffs, beams of light crossing over Ethan's body. The energy lifted him slowly off the ground. His body glowed faintly, surrounded by arcs of blue lightning that danced across his skin. He could feel it, the pulse of the core, calling to him like a heartbeat inside his mind. Zyra stepped back as the power intensified, her eyes wide with awe and fear. Ethan gritted his teeth as pain tore through him. The energy ripping into every nerve, he screamed, the sound echoing through the vast chamber. The core responded, its faint light suddenly flaring brighter. The city above began to tremble as if the world itself was awakening. Zyra shouted something in her language, but Ethan couldn't hear her over the sound of his own heartbeat. It felt as if the universe was inside him. Every star, every planet, every breath of life. He saw flashes in his mind, memories that weren't his, alien worlds, ancient wars, the rise and fall of civilizations. He saw Zyra as a child, standing before the dying son of her people, swearing to find salvation no matter the cost. He understood her now, her desperation, her pain, and in that moment, the anger inside him melted away, replaced by something purer, empathy. The core's light grew blinding, a storm of energy swirling around them. Ethan's body began to glow brighter, almost transparent. Zyra reached out but couldn't get close. The force pushed her back. "Ethan!" she shouted, tears streaming down her face. "You have to control it." But he was beyond hearing. His mind floated in a sea of light and power. He could see everything, the structure of matter, the rhythm of energy, the pulse of existence itself. And deep within that storm, he felt something ancient awaken. The core spoke, not in words, but in thoughts. "You are the bridge," it said. "The link between creation and decay. Between human and alien." Ethan didn't understand, but the light kept growing. He felt his heart slowing, his body breaking. But his mind expanding beyond its limits. Then suddenly everything went still. The chamber fell silent, the energy stopped crackling, and the blinding light dimmed. When Zyra opened her eyes, Ethan floated in the air, completely still. The core now burned brighter than ever, pure, steady, alive. The dying pulse had become a steady heartbeat once more. The priests fell to their knees, whispering prayers of gratitude. Zyra looked up at Ethan, her chest tightening. He wasn't moving. She took a step forward, calling softly, "Ethan." No response. Her hands shook as she reached out, her fingers brushing the edge of his glowing form. For a brief moment, she felt warmth, human warmth. And then the light flared again. Ethan's body dissolved into pure energy. Streaming into the core, the crystal shone like a new sun, its power spreading through every vein of the city. Above them, the real sun of Luminaris blazed to life. The darkness was gone, replaced by golden light that filled the alien sky. The entire world cheered, millions of voices echoing in joy. Zyra stood motionless, tears falling down her face. Her world was saved, but the one who saved it was gone, as the light faded. A faint echo lingered in the air, a whisper. It was Ethan's voice, soft but clear. Maybe being human was never about being born one. Zyra looked up at the glowing core, her heart breaking and healing at the same time. For the first time in centuries, the world of Luminaris was alive again, but for her, the silence that followed would never truly end. The core glowed brighter than 1,000 suns, spreading its light across the skies of Luminaris. Every living being on the planet looked upward in awe, feeling warmth for the first time in generations. The once dying sun now burned golden again, its light washing over the crystal towers and silver oceans. The world was reborn, yet inside the core chamber, silence reigned. Zyra stood motionless, her gaze fixed on the spot where Ethan had vanished. The echoes of his final words still lingered in the air like a ghost. Maybe being human was never about being born one. She fell to her knees, her hands trembling as she pressed them against the glowing floor. Tears slid down her cheeks, glowing faintly under the new light. Her people's voices echoed from the city above, singing in celebration, but to her the sound felt hollow, empty. She had promised Ethan that his death would not be for nothing. And though her world was saved, her heart carried a wound that no light could heal. The priests entered the chamber, bowing deeply before her. "The core is stable. Supreme Zyra," one said softly. The human fulfilled the prophecy. Zyra closed her eyes, whispering, "At what cost?" Her voice cracked, and the air around her shimmered faintly. She rose slowly and turned toward the core, now pulsing with a calm and steady rhythm. It was beautiful, but it also felt alive, almost aware. As she stepped closer, a faint ripple of light shimmered across its surface, and then she heard it, a faint whisper. Soft and familiar, Zyra. Her breath caught, her heart racing. "Ethan," she whispered back. The core glowed brighter, forming faint patterns and human patterns, like a face made of light. It was him. Faint but there, his essence intertwined with the energy. "I thought you were gone," she said, her voice trembling. "I am," the voice replied gently, "but not in the way you think." Zyra stepped closer, her eyes wide. "You're part of the core now." "Yes," Ethan's voice echoed softly. "And part of you." She reached out, her hand hovering just above the surface of the crystal. Warmth spread through her fingertips like a heartbeat connecting to hers. "Why did you do it?" she whispered. "You could have fought." "You could have refused." Ethan's voice was calm, peaceful, "because I saw what you saw, Zyra. A world dying, a people lost. And I couldn't turn away." He paused, his tone softer now. "And because I finally understood what it meant to be human." Zyra felt tears falling again. "And what is that?" she asked, her voice breaking. Ethan's reply came like a breeze. "To choose compassion, even when it hurts?" The words sank deep into her soul. For centuries, her kind had valued logic, survival, and perfection. But Ethan had shown her something beyond that. Something flawed and yet powerful. The strength to care, to sacrifice, to love. Suddenly, the core pulsed brighter, waves of energy rippling through the air. Visions flashed before Zyra's eyes. Her people smiling under the golden sun, their children laughing in the light. She saw Earth too. Far away, its oceans calmer, its storms fading. The link between the two suns had stabilized, both worlds now thriving together. Ethan's sacrifice had done more than save Luminaris. It had healed the fragile balance of two civilizations. Zyra fell to her knees again, overwhelmed, whispering, "You saved us all." But the core's glow dimmed slightly, Ethan's voice fading. "My time is short," he said softly. "The energy that holds me here won't last forever." Zyra's chest tightened, panic rising. "No, please don't go." His voice grew faint but gentle. "You don't need me anymore. You have everything you need inside you now." Zyra pressed her hand harder against the core, her tears glowing as they touched the light. "Ethan, before you go," she whispered. "Tell me one thing." "What is it?" he asked quietly. She closed her eyes. "Was any of it real? The moments, the trust, the connection. Ethan's voice came back soft and sure. It was the only real thing. The core pulsed one last time, its light flaring across the chamber. Then it settled. Calm and eternal, Zira stood in silence, staring at the glowing heart of her world. She felt the faint hum inside her chest. A new pulse. Not her own. Ethan's energy lived within her now, bound by the fusion of the ceremony. For the first time in her life, she felt something she couldn't define. Humanity. Days turned into weeks and Luminaris began to thrive again. Its people rebuilt their cities under the golden sun, growing stronger each day. Zyra led them with a new kind of wisdom, no longer cold and distant, but filled with empathy. She shared stories of the human who gave them a second chance. And in the heart of the capital, she built a monument, a tower of crystal reaching toward the sky. At its peak burned an eternal light, glowing faintly blue. She called it the human flame, a symbol of hope and sacrifice. At night, Zyra often stood beneath it, looking up at the stars. She could almost hear his voice in the wind, gentle and warm. "Don't forget, Zyra," it whispered. "Being human isn't about blood, it's about choice." She smiled faintly, whispering back, "I won't," above her. The twin suns of Luminaris and Earth shone together in the distant sky. Two worlds united by one act of courage, one spark of humanity and one unthinkable choice. And in the quiet of that moment, the core pulsed again, not just with energy, but with the echo of a heartbeat.